Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Ladies and gentlemen, Eid Mubarak. Welcome to our newsroom. And this is the headlines. President Anglais expresses his best wish on the occasion of Eid al-Adha. Djibouti gets ready for the big celebration, the Eid al-Adha 2020. For the international news, in Mecca, the great pilgrimage has begun with strict sanitary measures. Hello, welcome to our newsroom for having the news in details. On the occasion of Eid al-Adha, which will be celebrated tomorrow in our country and in the Muslim countries, the President of the Republic, Mr. Ismail Omar Guelleh, expressed his best wish to the entire population of Djibouti and wished the sick compatriots a better well-being and a quick recovery. The President announced that the official ceremony of Eid al-Adha held at the Palace of the Republic will not take place this year because of the context of coronavirus associated with the high heat to avoid the displacement of compatriots. In his message, the President emphasized the multifaceted challenges faced at the height of the pandemic in our country, which is far from having said its last word to Djibouti. The fight against the pandemic is based on unity and solidarity with the commitment and patriotism of health professionals and armed forces. He advised never to break the respect of very justice and to remain vigilant and mobilized to face the torment of the coronavirus. The President finally stressed that efforts to strengthen socio-economic development welcomed the employment opportunities for young people. The President also said that his recent tour in the region was very instructive and that he was proud of the self-sacrifice and courage of our nation's living forces. He warned against supervicious tendencies of those who advocated division. He urged the President of the Republic to form the hope of a definitive access for society to the fruits and benefits of his effort undertaken under the sign of unity and national cohesion. Let us listen now the words of the President.
The Republic, His Excellency Ismail Omar Guelleh, wished as usual at the approach of Eid al-Adha more well-being, progress and prosperity to all Djiboutians. In his wish to the nation, President Guelleh first of all expressed the hope of a speedy recovery to all his sick and recovering compatriots. He then expressed the wish for rapid access to the economic and financial circuit to his compatriots who are in precarious situations and isolation, justifying himself on the cancellation this year of the official ceremony held at the place of the Republic on the occasion of Eid al-Adha. The context of coronavirus associated with the intense heat of the summer, which has largely begun in our country, at the origin of our decision to avoid the displacement of our compatriots, said the head of state. Basically, the wish of the head of state to the nation on the occasion of Eid al-Adha did not depart from the principle of serving as an opportunity to discuss the main issues on the agenda in our country. The multifaceted challenge recently experienced by our society at the height of the global coronavirus pandemic, and above all, the code of conduct to always recommend with regard to this pathology, which is far from having said its in last words in Djibouti, as elsewhere in the world were mentioned. In this regard, while he recalled the successful battle under the sign of a national unity and solidarity, through which our country had apprehended COVID-19, which was at its peak, he did not fail to warn his compatriots of the risk of a probable return of the disease in the near future. Never break with the respect of barrier gestures. They invariably remain the best treatment to oppose upstream to the contraction of the fearsome pathology, he said in substance. I will never cease to bear in mind the devotion and patriotism shown by our health professionals and our armed and security forces at the peak of the disease, the head of state said, as a tribute to these two categories of our working population, that he urged to always remain vigilant, mobilized, and in forward-looking position in the legitimate quest for our society to protect itself from the horrors of the coronavirus. The pursuit of efforts dedicated to socio-economic development remains the main priority of our government. He also noted welcoming the significant number of young people who found employment as a result of the extension of the vocational retraining policies of our education system at the creation of small and medium enterprises with public funding. Recent tours throughout our interior regions have been a real window of opportunity for me. They gave me the full measures to quantify the high aptitude that our young people have in the districts to fit in with the agreed policies of geographical poles of development. He said, still on this chapter on the issue of employment. My dear citizens, I am proud of the self-sacrifice, courage and talents which the living forces of our nation take up the challenge related to our development on a daily basis in all sectors of activity, he said. There is no doubt that our country is succeeding brilliantly in preserving the key assets of its sovereignty while negotiating with the responsibility, intelligence and creativity, the realization of its development, he admitted. But all the progress made, all the ambitions nurtured in favor of our access to sustainable development must not make us lose sight of the subversive desire of those who advocate division, especially clan-based divisions in our country, he warned. We must put an absolute end to those who seek to jeopardize our unity, stability, and cohesion, he warned, welcoming, however, the decency of the vast majority of our diaspora who remain in solidarity and fraternity with their community of origin. Those who have made the choice to leave the country with their wives and children have no legitimacy to plead proximity to some sections of our society at the expense of others, he said. For those of us who have made the worthy choice to pursue our destiny in the land of our ancestors, know better than anyone else how to understand together the success and failures, the sorrows as well as the joys, he said. And the President of the Republic wishes to form the hope of a definitive access of our society to the fruits and benefits of its efforts undertaken under the sign of national unity and cohesion.
The President of the Republic, His Excellency Mr. Ismail Merguez, receives, as usual these days at the advent of Eid al-Adha, messages of best wish from head of state and governments of Arab and Muslim brotherly countries. In their respective messages, the Muslim leaders all wish success and prosperity to the head of state, as well as more well-being and progress to the people of Djibouti. The King of the Kingdom of Bahrain, His Majesty Hamid bin Isa Al Khalifa, is among the leaders who sent a congratulatory telegram to the President of the Republic. In his message, the King of the Kingdom of Bahrain expressed his hope for greater development and prosperity for the nation of Djibouti. He then took this opportunity to reiterate his attachment to the preservation and strengthening of the privileged, fraternal and historical ties between the two peoples and the two states of the Republic of Djibouti and the Kingdom of Bahrain. Another message, a message of greetings from head of state and government of Arab and Muslim brotherly country, continue with the advent of Eid al-Adha to flow into the presidency of the Republic. In their respective telegram, the Arab and Muslim leaders all extend wish and health and prosperity to the President of the Republic, Mr. Ismail Merguez. The King of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia and custodian of the two holy places, His Majesty Salman bin Abdulaziz Al Saud, is among the leaders who sent messages of greeting to the head of state. In his telegram, the custodian of the two holy places expressed the hope of greater development for the people of Djibouti and welcomed the excellent level of friendly relation and cooperation between the two sister nations, the Republic of Djibouti and the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. The Crown Prince of the throne of the Kingdom to the Saudi Arabia, His Royal Highness Mohammed bin Salman bin Abdulaziz, who has also sent a telegram to the President of the Republic, has echoed the same message. Now, on the eve of the commemoration of religious feast of Eid al-Adha, shops selling clothes, shoes and jewelry are crowded morning and evening. Eid al-Adha, also known as Eid al-Kabir, which literally means the great feast, is one of the most important holidays in Islam. Shopping malls are crowded and mothers are already starting to go to the clothing stores to choose the most beautiful festive clothes for their children. The previous Eid had unfortunately fallen on the period of confinement, which significantly disrupted the preparation of families for Eid. But this time, Eid al-Adha comes after the lifting of the restriction for local shopkeepers and thus public transport, whether minibuses or other vehicles are all allowed to work. It should also be pointed out that the coronavirus is still present and it will be necessary, ladies and gentlemen, to respect all these lies to fight against the COVID-19 pandemic. Now, on the eve of Eid al-Adha, the mayor of Djibouti, Mr. Faduma Awale Usman, proceeded yesterday in the meeting room of the town hall to distribute new clothes for the benefit of 700 poorest families and orphans in each neighborhood of Djibouti city. The ceremony was attended by the Ministry of Women and Family, Mumin Ahmed Hassan, the President of the Olympic Committee, Mrs. Aisha Garad Ali, and the President of the Council of District to the city of Djibouti. This year again, the Djibouti City Hall has mobilized big means to give back some joy and a smile to children who have not had the chance of their fellow men because of their city situation. It is now a tradition that has been well established in the activities of the Djibouti City Mayor since the arrival at the helm of the city's Mayor, Mrs. Faduma Awale Usman, who instituted this operation to distribute new clothes for each Eid celebration. Now, moving to another subject, as usual in the approach of Eid al-Adha, the Union Women's Association of the Commune of Bulaus did not fail in its responsibility to distribute new clothes to orphans in different parts of the commune. The distribution operation took place at Gullet Stadium in the presence of the State Secretary for Youth and Sports, representative of the Ministry of Women and Family, and other honored guests, as well as family members of the beneficiaries' children, under the sign of solidarity. In a brief speech delivered on this occasion, the President of the Union of Women's Association of Bulaus Commune, Mrs. Fatima Hassan, recalled that more than 500 orphan children have been benefited this year from this noble initiative dear to our organization. To enable these children to live and enjoy the feast of Eid just like other children, the President of the association thanks on behalf of herself and her organization, the First Lady and the President of the UNFD, Her Excellency Mrs. Khadra Mahmoud Haid, and those who contributed for this commendable action, while urging them to undertake more similar charitable actions. Now in the north, the conference room of the Regional Council yesterday hosted an important ceremony dedicated to the clothing of the orphans in the town of Oboh. This honorable action is the work of the Regional Council, which is within the framework of its social activists, was able to finance this project entitled Let's Dress Our Orphans and Give Them Some Clothes for Joy. This project is a follow-up to the Census, Housing and Vulnerable Persons Survey that identified these orphans and vulnerable children. In their respective speech, the acting prefect, Mr. Ali Mohammed Maki, and the President of the Regional Council, Mr. Mohammed Maki, said that the project is a good example of the need for the orphans and vulnerable children in the region. In their respective interventions, the acting prefect, Mr. Ali Mohammed Maki, and the President of the Regional Council did not fail to thank the personalities and institutions that have made an important contribution. First of all, the State Secretary for Youth and Sport, Mr. Hassan Mohammed Kamil, the Vice President of the UNFD, Mrs. Hassan Ahmed Bilal, Mr. Abdu Kamil, the Mayor of Djibouti, Faduma Awale Usman, and the AFOD Association chaired by Mrs. Asiya Suleki Ahmed. In addition to these generous contributors, the President of the Regional Council would like to thank especially the Djibouti Women Foundation Association of Mr. Hassana Hussein Shire and Mrs. Ferouz Ali from the Djiboutian diaspora living in Holland, who dressed 100 orphans and 74 other clothes are offered by generous people who wanted to remain anonymous. A big thank you to all in the name of these children and their families, says the President of the Regional Council. Subsequently, the distribution were made in each of the 10 districts of the chief town by the District Council, assisted by a local elected representative. Now, health. Yesterday morning, the health minister inaugurated the new polyclinic Hayablay. This colorful event was attended by the ambassador of the Kingdom of Kuwait to Djibouti, His Excellency Yusuf Hussein, the General Secretary to the Ministry of Health, Dr. Salah Boneti Trab, the General Director of the Al-Rahma Complex, the Head Doctor of the Polyclinic, Dr. Eid Bulbul Mohammed, health officials and staff, as well as community leaders of the neighborhood. There was a joyful and festive atmosphere. The inhabitants felt a real pleasure to see the birth in their district a health structure worthy of the name, and to know that this polyclinic is different from the former polyclinics in terms of hospital capacities. It is a question of physically transforming the old CDCs into modern polyclinics. This project of transforming the community health center into a modern polyclinic is co-financed with the Embassy of Kingdom of Kuwait in Djibouti. A polyclinic is in essence a hospital facility with the infrastructure for the diagnosis and treatment of several ailments where practitioners and different specialties practices. In his speech, the Minister of Health stressed that the new structure will broaden the package of healthcare services to which specialized care. Almost all medical disciplines are developed there. Thus, the population of this locality now has access to better quality local care. After the intervention of important personalities, the minister and his delegation visited the medical blocks and equipment available in this completely renovated hospital structure. The Minister of Health, Mr. Mohamed Ouassama Diri, stressed that his department, to meet the needs of the population, we have given priority to strengthen the technical capacity. Let's listen to him.
L'immense plaisir d'être parmi vous ce matin pour célébrer la fin des travaux de réhabilitation et d'extension de la polyclinique de Hayabli.
It is my great pleasure to be with you this morning to celebrate the completion of the rehabilitation and extensions of the Hayabli Polyclinic. This new structure brings to a close a long-term project, a project that has enabled the transformation of 5 basic health centers into a polyclinic, thus creating an intermediate level of a second-level care while easing the pressure on referral hospitals brought to the highest level by the head of state, His Excellency Mr. Ismail Omar Gelle. These polyclinics now offer primary health care of diversified quality close to the populations living in the decent neighborhoods of Djibouti City. Ladies and gentlemen, the starting of primary health care truly constitutes the foundation on which the strategic orientations of our health development plan are based. Considerable efforts have been made to increase the capacity of primary health care facilities, diversify services, and include specialized care that has not been available until now. The polyclinics offer a standardized care package, modern and efficient equipment, and efficient reception and orientation system in order to better meet the needs of the population to which we want to restore confidence through quality, preventative, curative services.
The Health Minister, Mr. Mohamed Ouassama Diri, and his delegation then paid a guided tour of this brand new jewel under the lead of the head doctor, Dr. Eid Bulbul Mohammed, who presented the various services of the new Hayabli Polyclinic. The Minister of Health, Mr. Mohamed Ouassama Diri, reviewed all the services that make up this polyclinic through the maternity ward, which has equipment for investigations and exploration, advanced technological equipment, several hospital beds, a delivery room. The Health Minister and his guests continued their visit to the other services such as radiology, laboratory, stomatology. The polyclinic has a qualified and motivated staff to serve in the best conditions the population which will be served by this new polyclinic, which is in its first of its kind. The Equipment and Transport Minister, Mr. Musa Mohamed Ahmed, went yesterday, Wednesday, to Dikhil in the Unity region to visit and tour the rehabilitation works of National Road 1 between Belanbeli and Dikhil. During this visit, the minister was accompanied by the Director General of the ATR, Mr. Subhan Said Ismail, the DPCR Director Abdi Ibrahim Farah, and other senior officials of his department. Upon his arrival, the minister was warmly welcomed by the Prefect of Dikhil, Mr. Aden, the President of the Regional Council, Mr. Abdurrahman Yunus Arre, members of the parliaments of the region, ADR engineers, etc. It should be noted that this corridor absorbs a very large amount of road traffic linking Djibouti to the Federal Republic of Ethiopia and remains a strategic corridor for the development of the region. Now, another news also in the context of his visit to the Unity region. The minister and his delegation continued the visit to the Halu, a town in the Dikhil region. The minister distributed clothes on the occasion of the Eid al-Adha, which will be celebrated tomorrow, Friday, 31st July. The people of this community thanked the Ministry of Transport for the noble gesture for the children of this community. Now in the Labor Minister in charge of the reform of the administration, His Excellency Ismail Ibrahim Robles, signed with the UNDP resident representative in Djibouti, Mrs. Fatima El Sheikh, and an agreement on an institutional grant from the UNDP. Japan at its ministerial department in the presence of Japanese Ambassador, His Excellency Koji Yonitani. This third convention of its kind expresses the support of the Japanese people for the Republic of Djibouti in a spirit of friendship and fraternity. This grant will be used to strengthen the capacity of the Ministry of Labor to carry out actions in the fight against unemployment. It will also help set up the employability improvement program and create job opportunities for young graduates and unskilled workers. A number of young people will be placed on work placement through an EFIP in local private companies. This project will be executed by UNDP in consultation with the Ministry of Labor. Let's listen to the Ministry of Labor.
Cérémonie concerne la signature d'un projet d'accord.
This ceremony concerns the signing of a draft agreement on the professional integration of young people in particular, but also the training of young people employability. I am very satisfied, very happy to be here today, because we are at the culmination and concretization of our exchange from the outset. We and Mr. Ambassador on the problem of unemployment and shops and professional insertion. In this sense, we are at the level of the Ministry of Labor determined to carry out multi-form actions to be able to curb a little bit the unemployment. It is also important because we are in the context of fighting the COVID-19 disease in Djibouti, and we think that it's time to initiate projects for young people precisely so that we can overcome the negative effects of this pandemic. In relation to unemployment, and I believe that it's during difficult times that we find the real friends, the real men of Djibouti, and in particular, Japan. We like to thank Japan for supporting us in our fight against unemployment, and of course, through this, I would like to assure you also our thanks and express our sincere thanks for facilitating the signing of this agreement. I can assure you that we will work hard so that the results will be visible on the ground and that the youths are better supervised into the labor market.
Moving now to international news, the Great Journey pilgrimage to Mecca has begun with strict sanitary measures. More details with Dina Musa.
Pilgrims who have been selected for the Hajj began this Wednesday the Great Pilgrimage to Mecca. But Saudi Arabia has had to deal with the coronavirus pandemic, imposing restrictions on worshippers to limit the risk of contamination. This year, between 1,000 and 10,000 pilgrims residing in the kingdom are due to participate in the Hajj, according to Saudi officials and media. This is a tiny fraction of the 2.5 million people who performed this ritual in 2019. It is one of the 5 pillars of Islam that every believer is expected to accomplish at least once in their life. We have no security concerns this year, and it is about protecting pilgrims from the dangers of the pandemic. Khalid ibn Qarar al-Harbi, Director of Public Security, told reporters. The pilgrims were subjected to health checks and quarantined upon their arrival in Mecca over the weekend. Their luggage has been disinfected according to official media images. Some pilgrims said they received electronic bracelets to monitor their movements.
This is it for this edition of 9 p.m. Eidkum Mabruk and have a wonderful evening.